We've never had a red background here in the TV studio / radio studio, but we do today because clearly the incremental rollout of a jihadist jet offensive is taking place across the world with daily attacks from Asia to Africa to the Middle East to Europe to the United States and other areas of North America. Matt Bracken, former Navy SEAL, enemies foreign and domestic, who's been predicting Tet 2, will be joining us. Joe Biggs is on the ground in Orlando, Florida. Leanne McAdoo will be popping in as well. She just got back to Austin. She is hopping mad on them blaming the Second Amendment and calling this a homophobic hate crime. And then having all these imams on TV lecturing everyone not to politicize it as if they're the fount of wisdom, when in the Quran and in 11 Muslim nations it says, kill homosexuals. So the way they sit there and bring these people in, the so-called liberals, and then they attack, and then we get the blame. This guy's parents were brought in the 80s. He cheered when the World Trade Centers fell, witnesses have said, and he worked for a branch of Homeland Security, of course, because there's an obsession with these Islamists with running the airports, running everything. They want the control. In England, most of the new police chiefs, most are Islamicists. And the government, the leftists, want to work with these totalitarians for the first generation in exchange for giving them current control and power. It is a total takeover. Now, Paul Watson filed this report in the early morning hours yesterday when it was only 20-something dead. Now it's 50-something dead. But his short report says it all. We're going to air it right now, the truth about the Orlando mass murder of 49 people.
We're here in Dresden covering Bilderberg, but of course we've had the massacre in Orlando, Florida. 20 people, now they're saying up to 30, shot dead by an individual who has been identified as Omar Mateen, somebody of Afghan descent, who of course is a Muslim, and the religion of peace strikes. Again, imagine my shock. So the top trending hashtag on Twitter right now is gun control now. That's right, the trendies are already out in force trying to seize on that narrative. They don't seem to be as concerned about the fact that in 11 Islamic countries, gay people are executed. That's right, in 11 countries, state execution of homosexuals is still government policy. So where's the hashtag Stop Islam now? How many more innocent people need to die before we acknowledge that Islam has a violence problem? Why are the trendies bleating on about gun control when this is all about Islam? We had Paris, we had Brussels. Now this has come home, it's come to America. And again, the narrative has completely flipped. So again, we've got people like Sally Cohn of CNN saying, tweeting out, racist extremist hate is a problem with any religion, not just Islam. A single Muslim just killed more gays than so-called gay bashing killed in the last 50 years. So how in the hell is every religion responsible for violence against gay people? Completely insane. So again, Trump warned about Brussels before it happened. He's been proven right yet again. And hug a Muslim didn't work after the Paris attacks, did it? Pray for Orlando is not going to work after these attacks. And this isn't a problem with gun control. It isn't a problem with lone wolves. It isn't even a problem with jihadists. It's a problem with Islam. Where are all the leftists protesting against gays being thrown off buildings by ISIS, by countries like Saudi Arabia still executing homosexuals? And when are we going to face up to the fact that Islam has a violence problem? It's not a religion of peace. It needs to be reformed now, or we're going to see many more tragedies like last night in Orlando, Florida. This is Paul Joseph.
We have sources in Washington, we have sources in the Pentagon that are trusted and that are patriots, sources that have helped expose the fact that Obama, through the Muslim Brotherhood, as well as with Hillary, has been aiding and abetting al-Qaeda, now known as Islamic State, to confuse the public. Infowars.com has been at the very forefront of breaking this dangerous information in the last 4+ years. And of course, Cy Hirsch came on earlier this year to thank the broadcast and to concur with our sources and analysis that the Pentagon, namely the Army, for 4 years had been telling Obama, we are not going to aid al-Qaeda, ISIS. We are not going to be their Air Force. And that the Pentagon began feeding intelligence to the Russians, who were already on the ground there, by the way, to stop the Islamic State takeover. Islamic State was allied heavily, of course, and financed by Saudi Arabia, its progenitor, its main backer. NATO, of course, has been backing it. We have the leftists in Europe, Hollande, Merkel backing it heavily. They planned the entire destabilization program starting in Libya. Then it was to move to the east, to its neighbor, Egypt, and then right through up into Turkey, and then into the rest of Europe. They had the UN project headed up by the EU founder, Peter Sutherland, advertised going back 4 years ago that refugees should come to Europe, made the preparations for that, and then had them en masse come in as a time bomb that Saudi Arabia and the leftists can activate anytime they want through the Saudi Arabian command to engage in massive terror attacks all over Europe and the United States. This is being used to hold the West hostage, certain segments of the globalist combine believe. It is an insane, over-the-top, bold move, especially when you know that it was at least a 5 to 6 year old plan, and that when the Pentagon broke with the plan, when they discovered it and stopped playing along with it, they still went ahead with the program to fill Europe and the United States with the jihad forces masked as refugees, 80% military-age men. So they're putting their sleeper cells in place right now. They are massing them right now, but because they are not directed, they are, to use my allegory, it's like fire ants climb up your leg, and then when they get in a certain mass, one of them releases a pheromone saying, I'm about to sting, and then all of them instantaneously, within a millisecond, start stinging. That pheromone is released so fast, their antennas pick it up, smell it. That's what their antennas do, is basically smell. That's their noses. And boom, they hit you. And that's how this works. And I can look at the metrics, talking to top terrorism experts on and off air. We're going to see terror attacks increase at an exponential rate. And so that's what's been happening. They've been doubling every year worldwide for the last 5 years since this electronic jihad began and then kicked off the Arab Spring, run by Google, the White House, NATO, the globalist. I mean, this is a real move. This is happening. But some of the fire ants are firing too early because they're not under command and control. The globalists breed them in their basement like black widows, as I've said many times, dump them into our political homes, dump them into our beds, and then they know the black widows are going to bite us. But they're not in full control of them. They've just released them. Or it's like putting rattlesnakes in somebody's bed or water moccasins in somebody's swimming pool. This has been done, and thank God they are not well organized and ever well directed. You certainly can't say that Muslim Arab men are cowards. No, they're not. They're not cowards. On average, I mean, they're willing to die. They do hit cowardly targets. But they certainly are uncoordinated in their historical behaviors and activities for whatever reason. And it's like, 3 years ago when Obama has his red line on the anniversary of the red line, oh my gosh, Assad launched chemical weapons on his own people. And the jihadis put out videos Allah Akbaring with their Al-Qaeda brigade, Bin Laden brigade, black flags, saying they launched the chemical attacks. They wouldn't even follow orders to not celebrate it. They couldn't even run a false flag against Assad because they wanted to sit there and brag about it. Because that's how they count coup. It's how they, go up in the world. It's a narcissistic, kind of wannabe rock star deal. A lot of Midwestern girls and East Coast girls and Florida girls and Texas girls and, Pacific, Northwestern girls, whatever, they want to be movie stars. And so they get on buses or airplanes and they go to L.A. and, sorry, baby, there's no movie star jobs for you, but you can start at the bottom in pornography or as a prostitute. Well, Arab men and jihadis, but it's Muslims in general, but particularly Arab men, it's the rock star thing is you don't want to go be a Hollywood star. You don't want to be a basketball player or a soccer player. You want to be a jihad star. And on Muslim television, these people are rock stars. And their families just get lavished and get, millions of dollars in some cases. Usually it's about $100,000 whenever their son takes part in something like this. Let's say you live on the West Bank, can't pay your bills or whatever. Well, just get into Israel, stab a few people, and your family will be well taken care of, given a 10-year salary, basically. Now, you can talk all day about, well, the West is helping stir this up, and, the globalist stages events. Yes, I'm an expert on that. I've made many films. I've written books on it. I've immersed myself in it. I was the first to say 9/11 was a false flag inside job, with our government working with radical Islam to bring in this new class of civilizations. Criminal elements of our government, bare minimum, stood down. So that is a false flag. I put a video out yesterday to bait the media saying, Orlando's a false flag. I said, Orlando's a false flag. Then I said, but before that gets quoted improperly, radical Islam's real. This is a real attack. But Obama opened the borders up knowing these people would attack and brought them in and has covered up the past jihad attacks at Fort Hood and San Bernardino and in Philadelphia, the Army, Navy, Marine Corps recruiting centers, on and on and on. 12 attacks this year so far, they've swept under the rug, exponentially growing in the U.S. alone. So it's a false flag when you open the door. When you know somebody's planning something and you protect them. In fact, that's not even the right term. You could use it. It's somewhat accurate. Stand down is really what we should say. Obama has ordered a stand down, and we have the proof here today. Let these people in, knowing who they are, and let them attack us. But a stand down leads to the false flag. Because if you're behind it, if you're letting it happen, you're now aiding and abetting it. For what reason? The false flag has to have a reason. They're saying, we're coming after your guns. Hillary, Obama, Bernie Sanders, they want to ban all semi-auto firearms. They're coming for our guns. Doesn't matter this guy got a New York firearms license, it's hard to get. Doesn't matter he worked for Homeland Security as a contractor. Doesn't matter that he ran around in NYPD outfits. It doesn't matter. This guy had been watched for years. The FBI had been ordered to stand down, just like with the Boston bombers. Same MO. It's all in the news today. The same pattern. And then he's allowed to attack. And that is to encourage more people to come here and to see that you can be a martyr here and you can get away with it. Now, at one level, they don't want too many of these to happen too early till they get all their people in place. But they want to have a few of them to try to brand it as homophobia and hate crimes to pass anti-free speech laws and anti-gun laws. But they want to wait till after the election. And boy, who's been proven correct? Who's been proven right? Well, it's been Donald Trump. He said there will be more San Bernardinos. There will be more Brussels, Belgium attacks. There will be, absolutely. And he gets up there and talks about no-go zones in areas of Europe that we have experienced. These Muslims can't even get along with each other in their own countries. They constantly killing each other, no matter how radical the nation is. Saudi Arabia has to export these people to our countries because they'll attack there, even though the government kills gays, executes them. But not a word from Gawker, not a word from Reddit, not a word from Facebook, because you know what? We have stacks of news today up on Infowars.com. Here's the rest of the story. They're not just coming after your Second Amendment. Some Facebooks with 500,000 supporters, with famous authors that pointed out that this is Islamic terror, which is admitted, are having their accounts terminated, not just suspended. Others are having them suspended. Now, you think about that. That's what Germany's now doing as well. We have now gotten that bad, and I've got the articles right here when we come back, that if you come out on your Facebook and say, this is wrong, this is Islamic terror, they're suspending accounts. Reddit is banning users, deletes comments that say Orlando terrorist was a Muslim. Ladies and gentlemen, think about that. They don't want you to know. They want to project it onto you and your family and onto me and my family and say our Second Amendment and our open, free culture caused this to happen. Orlando shooting suspect identified as Omar Matin, registered Democrat of Afghan descent with firearms license. Orlando shooter identified as U.S. citizen. Orlando killer worked for company transporting illegal immigrants into the U.S., was interviewed by FBI 3 times in the last 2 years. He's got family members out that end up run groups against Trump who actually are organizing, bringing the refugees here and getting the $17,000+ a year of welfare each person gets. See, they organize it. Look at this. Brother-in-law of nightclub killer hates Trump, works with refugees.